All right, well, today we are diving so far deep into the 2024 rookie wide receiver class for Dynasty.
That's right.
I can promise you at this point of the offseason, you will not find another video that is going deeper into this class with their rankings than today. We're going top 25. Why are we going so deep now that I'm thinking about it? But why are we going so far?
The people want to know the next Puka. People want to find the little diamond,
Okay.
the diamond in the hay, if you will, if you've been with us for a long time. That's exactly
Inside joke.
right. Inside joke. Look, the more information we can give you, the more prospects that we can bring to you, the more exciting Dynasty is going to be when you go in the fourth round, third rounds, and that's exactly what's exciting here. But first, let's start off with the cream of the creme here, creme of the creme, tier 1. Your tier.
I was gonna say there is a tier in this video that is labeled deep sleepers,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm excited to talk about that. I'm
Love
not sure
that.
there's a Puka, but deep sleepers. But yeah, okay, we'll start in tier 1, and this has been how I felt from day one, all the way back in December when we started talking about this class. It's how I feel today. Again, there are two wide receivers in tier 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. I don't personally believe Marvin is all on his own, and I'm noticing a lot of videos where people are leaving comments and they're saying, Zach, I respect you, but honestly, it's silly. It's silly that you're even considering this. I think it's silly that people are automatically assuming that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the best wide receiver in this class. I think it's silly that you are automatically assuming that. Now, he very well could be. He is ranked as my #1 wide receiver.
Correct.
However, Malik Neighbors does do certain things better than Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, that's just the truth. That's just the God's honest truth. As far as after the catch, Malik is a better after the catch threat than Marvin Harrison. It's not even close. As far as like pure athleticism, raw explosiveness, Malik's a more explosive player. Now, obviously, Marvin's got a little more refinement to his game. He's probably got, this full package. We're comparing him to the all-time greats of like the Larry Fitzgeralds was one of mine. You talked about Julio Jones.
Yeah.
We have no reason to believe that he will be a bust. No reason to believe he'll be a bust. He should be a fantastic player. He's a great route runner, impacts the game at all different levels. He overcame bad quarterback play. He's got great ball skills. Kid's a ball winner. But Malik Neighbors, in his own right, is an elite prospect. And I'm going to stand on that grave until I get buried in it, potentially. But I think Malik Neighbors deserves to be in the same exact tier as Marvin Harrison Jr. And people keep saying, would you take Marvin Harrison at the 102 in a Superflex league? And my response to them always is, I wouldn't need to. I would trade back. And I would happily trade back to the 104 and get more in return to take Malik Neighbors and let someone else draft Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not to say, again, that I don't believe Marvin's going to be an all-time great. He has that potential, but I think it's more silly for people to just assume that Marvin's going to be the best player we've ever seen, since freaking LT from the Giants, on both sides of the ball. Rather than like look at these two players and what they can offer an NFL team. I love me some Malik Neighbors, super explosive. He is an incredible route runner. He's super versatile. You can line him up all over the field. Malik had the #1 PFF receiving grade with any wide receiver over 50 targets, even if you take away that qualifier. He's got great ball skills. He's got late hands over the back shoulder. He's got incredible speed. He's ridiculously explosive after the catch. I'm seeing a little Antonio Brown. I really am. I'm seeing some Antonio Brown, some Reggie Wayne, some DJ Moore to his game. So I think, and damn it, I'm gonna bury me on this hill. Malik Neighbors is in the same tier.
Look, I completely understand. I don't have these guys in the same tier. I think a lot of the community that I've seen, the comments for sure, like I can see their process, but at the same time, I'm not counting out Malik Neighbors as an elite, or not saying that he can't be there. I just think that there is more. If you had to put a percentage on the bust factor and compare these two back and forth, Malik Neighbors feels like, keyword feels like, he has a bigger bust factor.
See, I just don't agree. I do not agree.
And that's the thing. That's where we disagree. I think, once again, it feels like Marvin Harrison Jr. is locked in top 5, 6 dynasty wide receiver for his career. Where Malik Neighbors, I am projecting, but at the same time, I think there is a, let's just say, 20% bust factor where he is not a top 10 wide receiver in Dynasty. Or you get what I'm saying? I think that's where it differs a little bit. But look, once again, I can understand it. I respect it. Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, let's not go too much longer here in tier 1. Take us to your tier 2.
Yeah. All right. In tier 2, this is where I have one player. all on his own.
Oh, all on his own.
And that would be one Rome Odunze.
Okay.
I think he's all on his own. You know, I don't personally believe there's a scenario. Now, you know, we've seen him land in some really concerning landing spots in mock drafts. We've seen him land with like the Colts, for example, and we don't imagine they let Michael Pittman go. Like maybe I have to reassess things, but just purely at this point, no combine. You know, we haven't even seen the Senior Bowl yet. While we're recording this, it's this week. We don't know draft capital. Just purely evaluating these players as talents, watching all 22 film, looking at the analytics. I think Rome Odunze is like the clear guy on his own in the next tier. I'm not personally considering, you know, a couple other names that I'll talk about in tier 3. But he's got the full, complete package. The ball skills, ridiculous. Quite simply put him in a one-on-one jump ball scenario, the guy's going to come down with it. And that was one of the few, and I say this seriously, one of the few flaws in his game in 2022. He didn't decide to come out into the NFL draft. He was going to be one of my favorite sleepers. You know that, Badaki.
Yeah.
He comes back to college, and he improves his only weak spot as a ball skill, jump ball type of winner. He's got great physicality. I mean, this is a defensive back's nightmare to go up against this guy one-on-one. He's an incredible route runner, combination of strength, quickness, release package off the line of scrimmage. He's a nightmare in zone. He's a nightmare on press. He's got really good speed for his size. At the moment, he's at 6'3", 215.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've said before, I think the comp for me is Cortland Sutton and Chris Olave had a baby, and Rome Odunze came out the other side.
Look, we are on par here with our top 3 wide receivers. I compared Rome Odunze to more of a twitchier T. Higgins, really strong, contested catch and contested
I like that too.
catch hands, right? Like somebody you can depend on the sideline, deep ball opportunities. That's what he can bring. He can either be a wide receiver 1, the way we are projecting T. Higgins to be if he does go to a new team, or be a wide receiver 1B as we can see him with Jamar Chase. That's the exact same thing Rome Odunze could bring to a team, which is really exciting. By the way, team fits in version 2 coming soon. That is
hey,
really
let's
exciting.
talk about it. Just before we do dive into tier 3, by the time this video is releasing, I'm not sure exactly, but February 1st, we are releasing version 2 of our 2024 rookie report. We'll show you a little sneak peek of V1 here. This is Marvin's profile, but version 2 is going to have more feature. We'll talk about team fits, talk about these attribute kings for the class, players returning. There's so many new features in V2. We're adding tight ends to the profiles. I mean, we're very excited to release it. If you want access to this, go ahead and use our promo code LAND. Sign up to the Flock Fantasy website. You'll get 30% off. As long as you're a Mother Flocker member, you'll have access to everything on the screen right now, including a Dynasty team review, including the rookie report, which updates every month with new features. But yeah, exciting times, Badaki. You and I are just nailing down the last little features of that.
We
that
are
profiles.
grinding it out, so I hope you guys love it here. All right, tier 3, take us through it.
All right, tier 3. Egbuka is gone, so we don't think about him anymore. He's going back to college. And I've had a real internal battle between 2 names. There are 3 guys in this tier.
Okay.
But Troy Franklin and Brian Thomas. I also have Lad McConkey in this tier, and we can talk about that. Y'all know I've been a Lad guy from day one. Lad, the space creator.
Yeah.
I'm really, with my wide receiver 4, I am tossing and turning between these 2 names. But what do we want to talk about in this tier?
Well, let's talk about Troy Franklin and Brian Thomas, because have solidified in my rankings that you kind of pick your poison here. I think they bring 2 different attributes to an NFL team, maybe to your fantasy team. Do you like the 6'3", 187 in the Troy Franklin, the Devonta Smith type of comp? Or do you like a 6'4", big body, Michael Pittman-esque type of build that can play the outside, that can bring a little bit of versatility with his size and strong hands, the yards after the catch ability? Just depends on what you want in a dynasty perspective, or maybe even where they're land, which is really probably going to solidify and bring that gap in between both of these guys, because I have him, 4A and 4B. That's how I have him right now in my dynasty rankings.
They're really tough to separate. I think the Brian Thomas hype, if the NFL draft goes a certain way, here's the issue, right? I have Troy as a prospect ranked higher, just evaluating film, looking at the numbers. I have him ranked higher than Brian Thomas Jr. However, I believe at this point in the offseason, I can see Brian Thomas Jr. going ahead of him. And, we're looking at so many different NFL mock drafts, and Brian's in the top 15 now. He's in the top 20 locked and loaded, which is what we anticipated. But unfortunately, Troy is like the opposite. He's falling out of the first round in so many mock drafts.
We haven't been
I
hearing
don't
his
understand
name.
why. I really do think it's the size profile. 6'3", 187. You and I have talked about it with Troy. He really, it feels like he plays at 6'3", 175. It really does. Like, it doesn't feel like he's got 187 on him. And even if he was 187, that size, like, just to compare him to current players in the NFL who are succeeding at that size, it's difficult to do. It is. I have to be honest. I mean, Robbie Anderson is really the only size comp that makes a lot of sense. Devonta Smith isn't as tall, and he doesn't have as much size, weight-wise. But, the reason I'm still holding on to Troy at this moment, and it could flip-flop, is because I think Troy has a much better baseline route running package to work with than Brian Thomas Jr. does. I love Brian Thomas Jr. He's clearly the better athlete. But when you're saying, I need you to step into the NFL day one and create separation and get open, I think Troy Franklin is better at that today. Specifically, his release package. I think Brian's release package is something that definitely needs to improve. Brian has got quick feet. He's a scary, fluid athlete. But off the line of scrimmage, he's not as quick. He's not as nuanced. He's not as detailed as Troy Franklin is. Y'all know this. I've called Troy Franklin Frozone before. That's because off the line of scrimmage, my guy has got those quick, sweet feet that put you in a bind. You're stressed the minute the ball is snapped. You're not sure which way he's going to go. And by the time you figured it out, he's probably past you and has 3 or 4 yards of separation. He's got a very, very good release package. He's a decisive cutter, quick in and out of his routes, in and out of the stem. He's good after the catch. Brian is too. He's got great play speed and quickness. He's a very functional athlete, Troy Franklin is. A lot of functionality there. He broke out at the age of 19, accounted for over 24% of Oregon's receiving offense in 2022. So, like I said, I'm going back and forth. I love both of these players. For me, for Troy, I see a little Deshaun Jackson. I see a little Jameson Williams and Devonta Smith. Somewhere in between there, you're finding him. With Brian Thomas, you're right. Probably the ceiling is higher. Maybe if you're at the 107, 108, 109 in a Superflex draft, you think, who has the higher upside? Maybe it is Brian. I could see that. With his big body build and his athleticism, but it's like I said, I'm walking you guys through this internal battle at the moment that I'm continually facing.
And like I said earlier, I think the biggest thing that's going to solidify this for a lot of people that maybe are in the same position as Zach and myself is the draft capital. If you see Brian Thomas going into the middle of the NFL draft, maybe he goes to the Saints, maybe he goes to Vegas, Denver. That's really interesting. But Troy Franklin falls a little bit, but goes to an elite quarterback. He goes to Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. That's going to make it really difficult because do you go with the upside with the quarterback or with the potential full-on production that he can get somewhere like the Denver Broncos, but doesn't have a top 8 quarterback in the NFL at the moment? We're expecting Russell Wilson not being with this team. They get a backup quarterback, or maybe they get a Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy.
Sure.
A lot of those things are going to I think the NFL draft is going to make that decision for us, which is going to make it a little bit easier when it comes down to your rookie drafts here. And Ladd McConkey, like you said, the space creator. I comped him to Deontay Johnson as his ceiling, a little Hunter Renfrow for the floor comparison here. 6 foot, 185 pounds. A phenomenal, I think, route runner. I think very underrated route runner. Someone that's going to come in and produce for a team in the slot and or outside, which is really interesting here. But
the hype is starting to build. And
it is.
I would add on to that comp. I would say Chris Godwin, because I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does after the catch. He's a special athlete. Yeah. He is. He just is. I think he's going to do really well at the combine. And I think the spreadsheet people will be out on Ladd, and that those spreadsheets take no context into account of the team he played for at Georgia, the offense that they ran, and the injuries that he sustained. So, same reason a lot of people are out on James Cook. So, it's just Georgia. You have to consider the team that he plays for. But I think he's a special athlete, and he has all the tools to succeed in the NFL. No doubt in my mind.
Completely agree here. And it helps that Emeka Egbuka does go back to college. He kind of rises.
And that's funny you said that, because when we thought Egbuka was in this class, I labeled Ladd the discount Emeka Egbuka in the class. And now it feels like, because Egbuka's gone, Ladd is like shooting up in people's rankings. I'm like,
probably. Which
is he going to be a sleeper anymore? Maybe not. That's
which makes sense a little bit here. All right. Yeah. Tier 4. Take us through it.
All right. Tier 4. I'll just name the guys, and you tell me
we'll have a conversation.
What you want to talk about. But This is always where people disagree with me.
That was a really nervous
Totally
laugh.
okay. Totally okay. Jalen McMillan's in this tier for me. Yes.
Okay.
In this tier for me, I would ask people, because there are some people who just scroll through the video. They don't even listen to a thing that we say. I would ask people to listen to the context. I'm not bothered on where you have tier 4 ranked. I just think all these guys deserve to be in the same tier. Okay.
Okay.
So Jalen McMillan, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, and Devon Tez Walker. With Tez Walker in particular, I see a lot of people who have him like right here by Roma Dunze Badaki. I'm seeing a lot of people, like there's a lot of hype. People love this player. I cannot personally get there. I do like him. I totally see the upside. We've got a size speed athlete, and there's a lot of that in this class, but he's a special size speed athlete. He's a great deep ball threat, super explosive down the field. Good ball winner, silky smooth type of movements. He reminds a little bit of Christian Watson, but I have a lot of concerns around this player. I do. And I guess we'll start here. He's a project route runner at this point. Tez Walker is a project route runner.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a lot of film of him at a Power 5 school. We just don't. He wasn't eligible at North Carolina for a little while. There were some issues there.
Yeah.
He plays about half the season. There's not a lot of film on him as a route runner against Power 5 competition. But what I did notice versus press specifically, I think he has the attributes to beat press. But I personally thought the small opportunities I saw versus press, he looked really timid, specifically when pressed up against by like a physical DB. I feel like he was unsure of himself on exactly how to beat that guy off the line of scrimmage. I also think he's a limited yak guy. I mean, I don't envision this, and that's where I guess he and Watson differentiate themselves a little bit.
Right.
But I don't think he's going to be like this dynamic in the open field after the catch type of player. He had 2.6 yards after the catch per reception this year. That ranks 224th out of 233 wide receivers who had 50 targets. But yeah, Watson's my comp. I think he's an exciting player, but I guess we'll just start by me saying I'm not on board yet with people who have him top 4, top 5.
And I completely agree. I just counted. You have him top 10. He's not in my top 10 in my Dynasty rankings. I can see the pathway. He's my wide receiver 13. I can see the pathway. I can understand it. I think we're getting a little bit lost, in my personal opinion, with everything that's happening in the hype of the offseason. And I think that is something that I've learned last year, because I probably went with that hype when I kind of compare the pathway that Tez is going down with the John Domingo pathway. Getting a lot of hype around in the fantasy community, whether that's on Twitter, whether that's in other content creators. And I think a lot of people are honing in on that and not necessarily realizing, okay, what is his true draft capital? And I think he might fall a little bit.
I don't know, dude. I'm seeing him go in the first a lot.
I just don't envision that. I truly don't.
I don't think he's worthy of a first round pick.
And if that happens, I mean, I'm wrong. I put my hands up. I'll come back and reevaluate. I need to understand why they see him. If you're telling me he goes to the Bills in the first round, okay. If you're telling me
he's a Gabe Davis plus. For sure. There's a big plus.
100%. And that could be very, very interesting. If he goes to the Baltimore Ravens, that could be an interesting landing spot there with Rashad Bateman and OBJ most likely walking. But at the moment, I think I need to see a little bit more. Maybe I'm protecting myself around the hype. It's really difficult to put a comp on him. I can see the Christian Watson-esque type of movement or pathway and thought process here. But here's somebody that I need to see a little bit more of. And if I'm not mistaken, he will be at the Senior Bowl.
I think so, yeah.
Which is
Watson's not a perfect comp, by the way. I mean, I really just say that because when he's striding, he's got these long, lengthy strides. It reminds me a ton of him. Mm-hmm. He's a size speed athlete like Watson, but I think Watson is a superior athlete, so it's not a great comp. It's just the closest I could find.
I can understand here. I think our biggest difference here is Jalen McMillan. He is my wide receiver 12, your wide receiver 7. And I said this before, and one of the things you said, did he not do enough for you in the college football playoffs? I don't think he was in a massive impact to change the game at the next level. It didn't feel that way in the college football playoffs, in my personal opinion. I see him more as a complimentary wide receiver 2, even wide receiver 3. And, I think of him as a more fluid Tyler Boyd. I think of him as somebody that can contribute if somebody goes down, can can step up and be a really good flex option in the future. I could be wrong, and I want to be proven wrong. Maybe he does get the draft capital. We see him mocked in the early second round to go to New England Patriots with the Drake May, Jaden Daniels. That's a perfect pathway for someone like a Jalen McMillan in my mind. But if he gets lost, like if he goes to the Panthers, I'm not necessarily sure I'm in love with that pathway. Do you get?
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, and that's where
I
that's
would
where
be
we differ.
obsessed with that landing spot because that's exactly what Carolina needs. They need a separator like this. They need a guy who can just simply get open and come down with the ball. And respectfully, I completely disagree because you guys know I've said this on Jalen from day one. If you are going to go watch Jalen McMillan film, you need to be aware he was only healthy a certain portion of this year. Go back to 2022. Him and Rome Odunze are putting up very similar numbers. They are. So he gets injured, I believe, week 3. So if you're going to watch Jalen McMillan's film, watch week 1 and week 2. In week 1, he had 95 yards, 8 catches, 2 touchdowns. In week 2, he had 114 yards and a touchdown. That's the only games he was healthy in the regular season. He now gets healthy in the conference championship game versus Oregon. Versus Oregon, he goes 9 of 131. Versus Texas in the playoffs, he goes 5 for 58 and a touchdown. In the national championship, he goes 6 for 33 and a touchdown. They just got shut down by Michigan, let's be honest. But every single game, I feel like he was an important impact player when he was healthy, and I fell in love with his film. I guess that's just a part where we disagree, but I think this is like, you talk about slot wide receivers emerging and becoming important pieces to an NFL offense. We're seeing that all over the NFL right now. I think this could be your next great surprise slot wide receiver. Now, of course, the floor is lower than that, but I think he's a very good route runner out of the slot. He's got great footwork, deceptive movements, really difficult to guard. I've talked about his break point at like the stem of his route. I've compared that to like Kyrie Irving's handles and trying to guard him. You're going to get your ankles broken. Quick, decisive release package. He's got very good suddenness. That doesn't get talked about enough. People talk about burst, speed, long run speed. How about functional short area quickness? He's got it as a route runner. He's super versatile. Washington was using him in the Wildcat. He was a red zone threat for them at his size out of the slot. He was used in the backfield, end rounds. He threw the damn ball in trick plays for this team. I love this player. I love him. I see Christian Kirk at worst. You're getting a Christian Kirk type of player. At best, I think you could see like a sneaky Keenan Allen type of ceiling out of the slot. I really do. There's a little Chris Olave to his game as well because he can stretch the field vertically. I see Tyler Boyd. That's probably the safest floor comp, but I'm going to keep batting for my guy Jalen. I wholeheartedly believe if you watch the games where he is healthy, you'll see an impact player at the next level.
And like I said, I would love to be wrong. I would love to understand it. And I can see the pathway if it's perfect. And I think that's where I'm struggling. And I don't think Jalen McMillan's pathway is perfect. Like, one of the comps that you kind of brought him to was Christian Kirk. And I'm not saying I can kind of see that as well. But what happened the first couple of years of Christian Kirk, the pathway wasn't perfect. And he had a decent quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, the last 2 years of his contract.
I guess I'm comparing him to what Christian Kirk was the year he left the Cardinals.
And I completely understand. And then he goes to the Jags and it's like he takes off because he went to the perfect situation. And I think
I mean like the year before that, but yeah, we're on the same page.
And I think that's where like I would fall in love with him. But if he lands,
I guess like, do you expect all of these? See, I don't understand that argument because
I don't expect
do you expect all of these guys to step into perfect situations?
No, absolutely not. But I'm saying,
so why is Jalen in particular being?
I think it's because like a lot of these guys, in my opinion, potentially I envision them producing in a non-perfect situation, and I'm not necessarily sure Jalen, in my opinion, can do that. I have the projections if for some players, but look, anyways, Jalen, interesting prospect, somebody I think also can raise his stock in the NFL Combine. For me, myself, you already have him there as your wide receiver 7, my wide receiver 12.
Yeah, and I understand this is not consensus at all, by the way, but like I mentioned, if you want to put him at the back end of this tier, go ahead and be my guest. You're so pissed at me because Xavier Worthy is the most exciting player you've ever watched. Yeah, do it. I don't care.
Yeah, and I guess let's talk really quick about the Texas boys here. Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Both of these guys bring something different. 6'1", 172, Xavier Worthy, a Hollywood Brown-esque type of wide receiver.
Yeah.
Great outside and or slot wide receiver that's very versatile with elite long run speed. I would say someone that can...
Yeah, he's the fastest player in the class.
Yeah, someone that can be a crazy yardage after the catch type of wide receiver. And Adonai Mitchell bringing something completely different. 6'4", 196 pounds, big body wide receiver. I have a new comp for him.
Okay.
Nico Collins.
All right.
I really like the pathway and envisioning him on a team like we've said. We've seen him going to the Bills. We've seen him going to the Chiefs. We've seen him mock to the Giants, and he plays that Nico Collins-esque type of role. Obviously, with C.J. Stroud, you hope that the way Nico Collins has elevated his game with that quarterback, really good hands for Adonai Mitchell, and that's exactly what he might
have the best hands in the class.
Yeah,
he might.
Yeah.
So I don't hate that Nico Collins comp. This was actually my T. Higgins comp. I know you said that was...
Sure.
Who was that for you?
Yeah,
this is my T. Higgins comp. But these Texas boys, I don't want to sound like we're discounting them. They're great prospects in their own right. It's such a deep class. It's such a deep class.
It is. And there's still a lot of talent on the board here going into the tier 5. So take us through that.
All right, into tier 5. One of my favorite sleepers in the class, Jermaine Burton. This is where Keon Coleman comes in. Xavier Legette, which, by the way, we got updated measurements for him at the combine. He's not as big as we once thought. Not sure if that changes anything for anyone. I would prefer to rely on the film. Jalen Polk also off the board. So these are the 4 guys in tier 5. I honestly think you can make an argument for any one of them being deserving in tier 4. But again, this is just based off of my film grades, and it's okay if people disagree. What do you want to talk about in this tier, though?
Let's talk about Jermaine Burton. He is somebody that I've scouted, and we haven't really spoken about. And
what did you think?
Since I've scouted him, he is phenomenal. He's actually my wide receiver 10.
Let's go!
In my rankings, I have him higher than you.
I love J. Cole, bro.
And he is somebody that I think can take it to the next level. Not only when you think of his route running ability, in my personal opinion, but you think about the middle of the type plays that he can bring, wide receiver or ability that can be in the slot and on the outside is really, really exciting. I think he's somebody that's going to be a reliable first down producer. My pro comparison, I saw a little Victor Cruz in him. He is somebody that is really exciting. He has a little bit of a fluidity to his game, but also plays with a little bit of stiffness, but he goes towards contact. He's tough. 6
He's
foot.
A dog.
Yeah.
He's a dog. He's coming after you.
Exactly. 195 pounds, essentially. And he is somebody that I love. I love when you can catch the ball and all right, I'm going to fight for the next 4 yards. And that's exactly what Victor Cruz used to do with his quickness, his shiftiness, and he would just run into the contact. And that's why I love this. I love Jermaine Burton. And I think he is somebody that's probably going to go maybe in the 3rd round here, but have that upside to be a wide receiver 2 that can complement any of these guys. Think about him going to, I think of him going to like the Jets or even the Bills. We keep saying that is somebody that is really exciting, that he can take the next step into the next level here. So I really, really like Jermaine Burton.
I am 100% on board. Y'all know this. I love me some. I call him J. Cole. I mean, for what reason, I don't know. Just dumb. I like J. Cole. His name is Jermaine Burton. I just always think of those J. Cole songs, Jermaine.
Right.
But anyway, I can't promise you who the next Puka Nacua is in this class. There probably isn't one. Let's be honest. There probably isn't someone who's going to be a 5th round pick that breaks records that stood for, a long time. But could I interest you in the next Jaden Reed? Because I think that's what we could potentially be seeing here with Jermaine Burton. We're not talking about a player that's an early declare. We're not talking about a player statistically that's going to blow you away. But when you dive into the film, you see an exciting player that can thrive at the next level. Now, different to Jaden Reed in the sense I think Burton can probably play on the outside a little bit more. To be fair, I think Reed could as well. There's just a lot of alpha bodies on that Packers team already. I see a little Jaden Reed in his game. He plays in the slot, on the outside. I think he played about 20% in the slot. I see a little Jacoby Myers, a little Josh Downs, specifically his release package. I mean, there was this video going around the internet last year of Josh Downs off the line of scrimmage, just putting this kid in a blender and scoring a touchdown. You see some of those moments with Jermaine Burton. His release package is special.
100%.
A little Adam Thielen to his game. A little Pop Douglas, like somewhere in between there. I think you've got a wide receiver 2 with special development upside. And by the way, we talked about him being a bulldog. This kid plays above his strength. He really does. This is not a guy who's afraid to fight a DB. He's not afraid, regardless of who's across the field from him. He had 9 out of 16 contested catches this year. That's 56.3%. Love his route running, nuanced route runner. So I'm glad we're on the same page because I'm a huge fan of Jermaine Burton.
Yeah, really, really love Jermaine. J. Cole, I don't mind that name. Big old J. Cole.
Yeah,
I gotta think.
Might be lame, but I'm going with it.
Gotta think of a name here. Anyone else here? I don't think there's anyone else. Keon, I guess we have to talk about Keon.
Okay.
Look, we have to say it every time.
Let me put this in a Twitter summary because we talk about this a lot.
Yeah, we have to say it every time.
I think Keon is a fantastic athlete. I do. I think he's a fantastic athlete. I think, unfortunately, I just believe he's better suited to the collegiate game than he is to the NFL. You have to think about simple things like where are the hash marks in the NFL? Well, it's going to be more difficult for you to create space, not only where space is less available to you, but also where the athletes are better all around the field. Guys are bigger, guys are faster, guys are twitchier. And Keon Coleman, to me, is a guy who, very good contested catcher. I've compared him to Kenny Golladay, but I think he's going to have the right quarterback behind him to be successful in the NFL. If you talk about guys who are going to be dependent on their landing spot, I think Keon is number 1 for me. He is number 1 in this class. Talented athlete, great ball skills, but not a very good separator. It's plain and simple. I don't think he separates well.
Yeah. I completely agree. Not somebody that I'm necessarily relying on to take it to the next level personally, but that's okay. I would love to be proved wrong. If he does get the draft capital, then maybe we have to reevaluate and understand what these teams see in
I've
him.
said this before. Like, if he goes in the first to the Bills, he can easily be a Gabe Davis plus player. So we'll have to reassess. But
yeah. All right. Take us through, which is exciting, deep sleeper tier here.
Yes, let's talk about these deep sleepers. Again, I just want to preface, I do not think there's a Puka Nacua ever again. But if you're looking for a sleeper, let's just phase it like this. A guy who's going to return value that we didn't expect him to. Or we love Puka, but in general, the NFL didn't expect him to. Fifth round pick, right?
I hear you.
Jacob Cohen's there. Ricky Pearsall. I kind of low-key fell in love with Javon Baker when I watched him in the second cycle. Malachi Corley, Malik Washington. These are the guys I will put in this deep sleeper tier. I guess I would prefer, if we're only going to, for the sake of time, talk about a couple names, I'd prefer to start with Javon Baker.
Sure, go for it.
This guy's exciting, man. This guy's exciting. And I've said this about a couple players, that they're in the wrong class. I say that because this class is just chocked full of size speed athletes. If you put Javon Baker in last year's class, I'm not so sure he doesn't go in the second round because of his size speed, the way that a Jonathan Mingo did, right? But we're talking about a guy who was recruited to Alabama. He's 6'1", 208. He transferred from Bama to UCF Central Florida before the 2022 season, and he's just been doing big things for UCF ever since. He's an exciting player. Get the ball in his hands. He's an explosive guy after the catch. He had a 7.2 yak per reception, 35th best in the nation. Great speed in the open field. He is going to stress secondaries all day long vertically. You cannot leave this guy one-on-one deep down the field. He has an enticing release package, super twitchy guy. Just, there's not detail. There's not nuance. It needs to be coached up in him. He's a good late hands catcher. He caught 9 of 16 contested catches, which was 56.3%, just like Jermaine Burton. The issues, though, limited route tree at this point of his career. There's not a lot of manipulation in his routes. Again, I think he has the tools in the toolbox. He just doesn't know how to use them. He needs to figure out how to use those tools. Couple concerns.
Okay.
So he only caught 61% of his targets. I believe that has more to do with his quarterback play than him.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing there is he had a 10.3% drop rate. That ranks 214th amongst wide receivers this year. So those are some concerns. But I wanted to say, like, again, there's probably not another Puka Nacua. Could I offer you, like I said with Jermaine Burton, a Jaden Reed, could I offer you the next Rashee Rice potentially? I think you could have that here with Javon Baker, maybe the next Rashee Rice. I also see a little Michael Gallup in his game too, but I like this player, man. He could be someone I'm smash accepting in the 4th round of rookie drafts.
Yeah. Look, this is somebody, one of my 4 that I brought in my quote unquote next Puka video. If you haven't watched that, go check that out. I talk about Javon Baker a little bit. I do like him. I think what's really intriguing was the 5-star attributes. He was somebody that was coming in as a highly recruited guy. I think he just couldn't get the opportunity that he wanted in Alabama. And he goes to a lower tier school like USF and gets the opportunity, which is exciting here. I'll do a quick Twitter version of, I guess, my guy to look out for, and that's Jacob Cowing.
Yeah.
However way you want to say, he is one of my favorite wide receivers, 5'11", 175 pounds, quick feet, twitchy route runner who can move the chains. Every time I saw a play that the ball was coming to him, it was a first down. It was somebody that you can rely on with really decent hands and take it to the next level and move the chains, which is really incredible. Sudden and quick movement, first down maker. He has very used-style movement as well. He can be utilized on the left end or in the slot end or on the outside. You can get him into motion as well.
Yeah.
He is somebody that brings a little bit of creativity to an offense. Now, my pro comp, maybe this is a crazy, crazy ceiling. I said shades of Amon-Ra because of the way he can be utilized in the slot. And then Tank Dell. I compared him to Tank Dell just purely based off of his size, right?
Okay.
Don't underestimate the size, which we did with Tank Dell last year. I think this is somebody that can go. I have him, in my opinion, late 3rd, early 4th round type of player.
Okay.
The Amon-Ra St. Browns, the Tank Dell who goes in the 3rd round. That's what's exciting about him. He don't discount him because of the 5'11", 175 pounds. I forgot what bowl game he played. The last game he played, 7 targets, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's the one who scored the out of versus Oklahoma, the game-winning touchdown. That's what's exciting about Jacob Cowing. He's somebody that you can rely on in the next level.
Yeah. Look, so Amon-Ra was a 4th round pick. Tank Dell, wasn't a early round pick either. So I could see like where you're coming from. Like this could be a guy. This could be a dude out of nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. The highest comp I could give him was Elijah Moore, and I don't want to like disrespect Jacob Cowing.
That's my floor. That's my floor comp because I love Elijah Moore.
Okay, that's my ceiling. Yeah,
that's my floor comp because of. I think he's a good route runner. I love Elijah Moore coming out because of his route running ability. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
I think he's a good route runner too. Mm-hmm. But I don't see Amon-Ra there. But I will agree with Elijah Moore. But it's an exciting player. And hey, the NFL wishes they could have drafted Amon-Ra higher than where they did. So all right, wide receivers to monitor. I wish we could talk about all 5 of those guys in the deep sleeper tier. But for the sake of time, these are guys that just I think should be on your radar. I'm not personally excited about them, but some people are. Jamari Thrash, Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, Johnny Wilson, the Goliath of a man, Roman Wilson, the smaller man, Taj Washington, Caleb Williams, go-to guy last year, and then Aniyah Smith. And I'm kind of annoyed at the Twitter community. I always am. I'm always complaining about Twitter. But we added Aniyah Smith to version 2 of our rookie report because I just kept seeing so much hype around this name and on Twitter.
Right.
And I was like frustrated after watching a couple games. I'm just like, why am I watching this player? Like, no disrespect, but what exactly are people seeing in this player that I'm not? Very little explosiveness. Yeah. Honestly, it felt like he was running through mud, in my opinion. Like, it felt like there was something holding him back. Like he was wearing a stress band as he was running down the field. Not a very special athlete. Little twitch, little deception. Not a good blocker. Gets manhandled in press. At what point does this guy become a usable asset? And I hope he doesn't watch this video because I'm sure he's a great person. I'm just some random dude talking about players coming in when they're playing football.
If you watch this all the way to the end, I'm believing for you.
But I just don't understand. I'm looking at a special teamer, a practice squad guy, and I don't get it.
I hear you. I didn't have him as high. I think he's my last ranked wide receiver in this class. Which looks like we're on par there as well. But yeah, all these guys, very interesting. I like Jamari Thrash. I like Brendan Rice, just purely based off of his genes. I think there's an elite work
ethic.
Yeah, work ethic, which we have no idea how to evaluate. I just believe that should be there because his name's Jerry Rice. I could be wrong, or last name is Rice. Johnny Wilson should play the tight end. But anyways, all these guys are very interesting. That can maybe have.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Jamari Thrash hype. I
I liked him. I
think he's okay. I mean, I just think he's like a decent number 3 on an offense. I just don't see like a exciting fantasy ceiling.
Okay.
Noah Brown was my comp.
Okay.
Ronnie Bell. I just don't see someone that like really stands out to me personally.
Okay. I kind of have him as like a Rashad Bateman-esque type of player. We love Rashad Bateman coming out. Maybe not the pathway we thought for Rashad Bateman, but I think he kind of weighs around the same. He's built around the same. Now, he's not as good as a route runner, I would say, as a Rashad Bateman coming out. But
oh, man, bro. Sorry to interrupt, but like if Bateman went to the right spot and didn't get injured, I still think that kid would have been a superstar.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that.
I really do as well. But there's some opportunity there for him if he goes into the right landing spot. Like any other of these players in the NFL are coming into the NFL.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Do us a favor, go ahead and smash the like button. I don't know how long this video was, but if you watched all the way through, shout out to you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for getting that retention rate up on the old algorithm. But yeah, if you made it this far, I want you to tell me the best TV show that you watched in 2023.
Love that.
I want to know who the OGs are that made it that far.
Love that.
That's it. We'll see you soon. All up. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.